So, welcome, distinguished viewers, to What Brooke Saw. This is the Therapy Diaries, episode 3. And I had another therapy session, another great one. And I wanted to just kind of share a little bit of what happened and what we talked about during that session. Self care. That's where we landed on this particular therapy session. And my therapist, who is a black woman named Latasha, love her, she was expressing to me that in the time, backstory. Okay, so what's happening is my boyfriend is going away for military training from August 1st to August 17th. And so she kind of inquired, like, okay, how do you feel about that? And of course, I'm like, I'm devastated. My partner is going to be away. I don't want to talk about it. But of course, in therapy, you gotta talk about it. So I was like, okay, I'm feeling a little, overwhelmed a bit by it just because, okay, he's going away. I won't have, the extra helping hands to be with the puppy during the day, which, I have like puppy guilt when I have to leave him in a cage while I'm doing work. But so she got on the topic of self-care from there. And we were just kind of talking about like, what is it that you view self-care to be exactly? And on the spot, I was like, I got nothing. But which is funny because like usually in like everyday life, I can do self-care. I am doing self-care. I can whip up a nice pretty meal for myself that's healthy and nutritious, and I'm like, yeah, self-care. I can take a bubble bath, and I'm self-care. I can do some anger journaling. Oh yes, self-care. But like when it came to her like putting me on the spot, asking me like, what do you believe self-care to be, I was like, you know what, let me think about it, right? So then what happened was later on, I actually journaled about what I thought self-care was, and I wanted to share a little bit of it with you. So I wrote that self-care is lighting up the senses, and I thought of just erotic pleasure when I think about like all the memes that are like, ooh girl, eat that chocolate, or take a bubble bath, or meditate and things like that. I think of like just feeling and seeing and smelling. You get the aromatherapy going and you're just like, oh yeah, like that to me is part of self-care. It's that like all encompassing piece where Audre Lorde talked about this. She talked about the erotic, and there's this book called Pleasure Activism that I was like, that really shifted how I thought about the erotic, right? So it's not just sex or sensuality in that regard. It is a visceral feeling of pleasure, and I was like, ooh, okay, I can get with that, right? So that was one thing I thought self-care was. The other thing I thought was permission to focus inward. So sometimes when I think about self-care, I'm like, oh, is it about doing like ticking off some to-do list items that I haven't like figured out? Or and then I came up with something while I was talking to my therapist about I should probably call so and so, but that's not self-care. And she was like, oh no, but it absolutely can be. Part of self-care is nurturing relationships that replenish you, and if that's what you think self-care is, then like more power to you. I was like, okay, so self-care doesn't have to necessarily mean solo care, but it's definitely something that's like focusing inward and what will help me expand and what will help me grow. So that was another thing, right? And then the last thing I came up with was self-care is getting free and not just getting by. And oh my gosh, that is it came from a lyric to a song. I'm gonna link it in the description, but getting free versus just getting by. And I think about like when I exhaust myself because I'm just like day to day, like, okay, did I check off all the things? Did I, do everything to the best of my ability? Did I just like give it my all and like left nothing on the floor? And it's like, yeah, but that's not a sustainable clip, right? And so, when I think about not going always trying to go and get to the edge and everything, like that is liberation, right? When I can choose to choose how hard I go, right? So then she challenged me. She was like, okay, so for the next, 17 days while he's away, why don't you do like a, self-care challenge? I was like, ooh, I've been meaning to lean into like a rest practice and experiencing more joy intentionally, right? So I was like, ooh, this challenge, that could work, right? And so I was, scrolling through Instagram as I do, and another post about self-care and what it could look like came up, and I'm also going to link that in the show notes or put it somewhere on the screen or somewhere. But anywho's, it said that self-care can also look like slowing down, being in the moment, resting before you're exhausted. And oh my gosh, all these that was just the first 3 bullets, right? And I was like, slowing down. What in this time of COVID-19 can I slow down, right? Because we're kind of starting to rev up here in the state of North Carolina. We're starting to rev things back up and everything. And I was like, well, I could certainly slow down my response time, particularly to response time to like request of my time and my capacity, because really sometimes the main reason why I need self-care is because I should have said no and I said yes. And it's that like inauthentic no, that dishonest no, that leads to me just depleting of all the resources, all the energy, all the like creativity that really like it just messes me up, right? So I was like, okay, I can slow down on my response time. That is one way I could practice self-care. Being in the moment. I thought about grounding techniques and meditation and stuff like that. Those kinds of things really help me stay grounded. And again, going back to that point of, lighting up my senses is checking in with my senses and being present, right? Resting before I am exhausted. Again, like there is that rest practice. And something, I was thinking about that rest doesn't necessarily mean sleep, right? I can rest a group chat by hiding the alerts. And that is a way of practicing rest because, before I get exhausted with my friendship or with the drama of the day or whatever thing, or with someone else's problems, I can say, I'm resting. I'm resting from this. And I don't have to tell them specifically, but I can absolutely practice intentionally resting from those kinds of spaces and conversations. Then some other things that came up was creating joyful moments, doing nothing, which leads me to a point of thinking about how sometimes I can forebode joy so that I end up trying to numb myself from pain too. But you can't have one without the other. You can't have pain without the pleasure, am I right? Anywho, and then the last one was exercising your options. And I immediately thought about like how liberating it is to enforce your own boundaries and to shift your perspective and realize that you have choice. You have the choice to say yes or no. You have the choice to be in or out, and to go all in, and how much you're going to just there are ways to measure out how much you engage with the world and with people and with relationship and things like that. And so I was like, okay, so let me think through all of this, what I'm thinking about self-care, and really like make it into some tangible practices. And so anywho, for the next 17 days or so, or depending on when I post this video, I think I'm gonna post it on Sunday. So it's gonna be, a challenge to myself, and hopefully you will also engage in this kind of like 2 and some change weeks, where you just engage with yourself and reflect on what is transformative self-care to you. I'm looking forward to it. Of course, I look forward to the personal growth that comes from turning myself inward, and really listening to what, just doing that gut check, Anywho, so Will you join me on the challenge? If so, go ahead and leave a comment saying you're in, what you're considering doing as part of your transformative self-care practice. And don't forget, if you haven't already, like and subscribe this video and to this channel, and share it with a friend, because I'm really hoping that this will grow into, just something bigger and better. And, that is what I have for you. And that was what my therapy session was about: transformative self-care. And so looking forward to the next session so that I can share with you all what I've been talking about and confessing, and what my therapist has been checking me on. So yeah, I will talk to y'all another time.